General Kethavar of the Zephyrian Armada stood atop the smoldering ruins of what had once been New Geneva Colony, his four eyes scanning the devastation with cold satisfaction. The human settlement had fallen in less than 6 hours. Pathetic, really. These soft-skinned mammals had barely put up a fight. "Status report," he growled into his communication device, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "All defensive installations neutralized, General," came the reply from Commander Vex. "Estimated casualties 97%. No survivors detected in the main settlement areas." Kethvar's thorax rumbled with pleasure. The humans had foolishly refused to surrender their mining rights to the Zephyrian Empire. Now they would serve as an example to other colonies that dared defy the might of his people. The Zephyrians were apex predators, evolved from the deadliest hunters on their homeworld. These humans, with their fragile bodies and pacifist tendencies, were nothing more than prey. But as the smoke cleared, something moved in the rubble. Dr. Elena Vasquez crawled out from beneath the collapsed medical center, her white coat torn and bloodied, but her dark eyes blazing with determination. Around her, she could hear the faint cries of the wounded, colonists trapped under debris, children separated from their parents, elderly settlers who couldn't run fast enough when the bombardment began. She had made a promise when she took her medical oath 20 years ago on Earth. First, do no harm. But more importantly, she had made a personal vow that day her daughter died in the Martian plague outbreak. She would never abandon those who needed her care. The Zephyrian soldiers were already beginning their sweep, moving methodically through the ruins with their plasma rifles, executing any survivors they found. Elena heard the distinctive whine of their weapons, followed by screams cut short. She activated her emergency medical scanner, a compact device that could detect life signs through several meters of debris. The readings made her heart race. Dozens of survivors scattered throughout the ruins, many critically injured. Elena began moving. The first family she found was the Hendersons, Marcus, Sarah, and their 8-year-old son, Tommy. Marcus had a compound fracture. Sarah was unconscious with a severe head trauma, and Tommy was trapped under a metal beam, his leg crushed but alive. Elena could hear Zephyrian patrols approaching from 2 streets over. She injected Marcus with a combat stimulant from her emergency kit, military-grade medication that would keep him conscious and mobile for the next 4 hours, despite his injuries. "Listen to me," she whispered urgently. "I'm going to free Tommy, but you need to carry Sarah to the old mineshaft entrance. You know, the one where Tommy likes to play. Wait for me there." "Doctor, they'll kill you if they find you," Marcus gasped. Elena was already working on the beam with a plasma torch she'd salvaged. "They can try." Over the next 3 hours, Dr. Elena Vasquez became something the Zephyrians had never encountered before, a human who refused to be hunted. She moved through the ruins like a ghost, her medical training transforming into tactical expertise. Every anatomical course she'd taken told her exactly where to strike a Zephyrian to incapacitate rather than kill. The nerve cluster behind their primary eyes, the joint in their exoskeleton that would paralyze a limb. Every emergency medicine rotation had taught her to work under pressure, to make life or death decisions in seconds. She found the Yamamoto family buried in their basement. Grandmother, parents, and twins. The grandmother was dying, her body too damaged to move, but she gripped Elena's hand with surprising strength. "Save them," the old woman whispered in broken standard. "I had my time." Elena performed field surgery by the light of burning debris, using salvaged equipment to stabilize the twins while their parents carried them to safety. She left the grandmother with enough painkillers to ensure a peaceful end, and a plasma grenade with a timer. The old woman smiled grimly as Elena explained how to use it. The explosion 20 minutes later took out an entire Zephyrian patrol squad. By dawn, Elena had moved 47 survivors to the mine shaft complex, a natural cave system the Zephyrians hadn't detected. She had performed emergency surgery on 12 critical cases, delivered a baby whose mother had gone into labor during the bombing, and organized the survivors into medical teams using her emergency protocols. But her work was far from over. General Kethvar was furious. His perfect extermination had somehow become a nightmare. Patrols were disappearing. Supply caches were being destroyed. Wounded Zephyrian soldiers were being found unconscious but alive, stripped of their weapons and equipment with their injuries treated. "What kind of human does this?" he demanded of his intelligence officer. "They treat our wounded instead of killing them?" "General, we've identified the primary target," the officer replied nervously. "Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Medical Officer of the colony. She appears to be making house calls." For the first time in his military career, Kethavar felt something he didn't recognize. Uncertainty. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to run, to hide, to die quietly. They weren't supposed to save their enemies while fighting. A guerrilla war from a mobile medical clinic. The war on New Geneva lasted 3 weeks. When the human relief ships finally arrived, they found General Kethavar and his remaining forces in the colony's rebuilt medical center. All of them alive, all of them wounded, and all of them under the care of Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team of survivor medics. The Zephyrian general looked up at the human admiral who had come to negotiate his surrender. "We came here to exterminate your people," he said quietly. "She turned us into her patients instead." Admiral Chen looked down at the alien who had promised no survivors, then at the small woman in the blood-stained white coat who was currently removing shrapnel from a Zephyrian soldier's carapace. "Doctor," he called out, "I think you've made your point." Elena didn't look up from her patient. "Almost finished here, Admiral. This one has a punctured lung, very similar to human anatomy, actually. Fascinating from a xenobiological perspective." The Zephyrian soldier she was treating grabbed her wrist weakly. "Why?" he whispered. "We tried to kill you." Elena smiled, the same smile she had given to patients across 3 planets for 20 years. "Because you needed help," she said simply, "and I promised house calls." As Admiral Chen would later write in his report to Earth Command, the enemy promised no survivors. Dr. Vasquez delivered on both promises.